Morning. We're learning as chusr for Shlema, for Ilana Chaya Baserach, and for Meir ben Cyril Perel. We're at the Daf Nun Beis Amud Aleph, 2 lines before the wide lines, the end of the narrow lines. Nishtabu Roiv Tzloiseh. Continuing our march through the Mishnah, we're listing the 18 treifas, and the one we're up to, getting toward the end, is if most of the ribs of the animal were broken. The ribs of an animal extend around the rib cage, around the torso of the animal, from the spine. The spine is on the back of the animal, the bony protuberance that in the middle, and on each side, the ribs go down toward the animal's stomach. Sagt man, Ton Rabban, Elohein roiv tzales, sheish mikan v'sheish mikan, o yachas aser mikan v'achas mikan. It could be 6 from one side and 6 on the other that are broken, or 1 on one side and, 11 on one side, or 1 on the other side. There are a total of 22 total ribs. Some of the ribs, there's really 26. As you're going to see, 3 on each side, 22 and 26, sorry, sounds like more like 2 on each side, are not as substantial. They don't have any marrow in them. We're referring to the 22 that are substantial ribs. It has to be a roiv of them. So in order for it to be a roiv, 11 and 11 is not a roiv. So it has to be 12 that are broken. That's a roiv of the ribs that we're discussing. Doesn't make a difference. And this Brisa says it doesn't make a difference to how they're configured, which side. Is it going to be 6 on one side or 11 on one side and 1 on the other? Right? There's a total, the most it can be on one side is 11 because it's only a total of 22. Amr Zeiri, Umachzayin Klapi Shedra. It has to be on the upper half of the ribs, nearer to the spine. Amr Rabbi Bachana, Amr Rabbi Yechanan, Obetzal is Gedelish Yesh Behen Mayach. We're only discussing the substantial ribs that have marrow in them, and not the smaller ones. Amr Ula ben Zakai, Amr Ula ben Zakai Amr. Ula says that ben Zakai said, Nekru b'tzroiv tzad echad. If it was nekru, then it just has to be a roiv of one side. Like we said, there are 22 ribs, so it has to be a roiv of one of the 2 sides. Which is only 6. So when it's nekru, when it's uprooted rather than broken. Broken is not as serious as uprooted. Nekru is the body of the rib. At some point has a break. Everyone says that breaking ribs is very painful, but it just heals on its own. So you need to have, rather than to be broken, then it's a treifa. But with the rib, where it connects to the vertebrae, has been pulled out, that is not so easily, doesn't heal as easily. So you even have roiv on one of the 2 sides, which is only 6. That's enough to make it into a treifa. Nishtav b'roiv shnei stad. Ula Speshem ben Zakai is saying that if it's broke, then like we said before, it has to be roiv of the 2 tzadim, so you need 11 or 12. Rabbi Yechanan Amar Bein Nekru. Rabbi Yechanan disagrees. He says Bein Nekru, Bein Nishtaber B'roiv Shnei Tzadim. Nekru, he's Mekel. He says even if it's Nekru, it still has to be roiv of Shnei Tzadim. It still has to be 12. Even though Nekru is seemingly more chamor, it still needs roiv shnei tzadim. Amarav, nekra tzela v'cholya ima treifa. If a rib, together with its socket, or the cholya is not really its socket, the cholya is the vertebrae that the rib attaches to. If they both were removed from the spine, meaning not just the rib came out of the spine, but that vertebrae from the spine left its place in the spine, then it's a trait. Amalei Rav Kahana Ravasi l'Rav. Rav Kahana Ravasi asked Rav, Nekra tzela mikan v'tzela mikan v'chol yekayemes mal. What's the din if the
So according to Rav, Nekrat Sela V'Chol Ye'im Treifa, Rav is a Makel or Machmer. What is he adding on
he's
here?
saying he's adding on a different din. We hadn't discussed this so far, right? We discussed about nekar, where the
Yeah.
rib was removed from the vertebrae, but the whole vertebrae, the spine of the animal is intact. Now we're talking about where not only is the rib missing, but a piece of the spine together with it is missing.
And do
It
we
was taken
over
out of
here?
its place.
How many is just one piece, or do we still need the Rav? Like,
He's
what's
no,
the
it's just one piece.
one
I
piece?
mean, I mean,
Uh,
as you're going to see from the response to this question, once you're missing a piece of the spine, that's what we call a gistera. That means the animal is split. First of all, it would seem to me the animal is clearly going to be paralyzed, right? If it's missing a piece of its spine. Until now, we were talking about the ribs missing. But there's going to be a lot of discussion about this. We're not. Zakt Gemara. So now the Kahana Ravasi um, asked a second question, different question to Rav after he made a statement. What happens if you have both sides of both ribs that are coming out of a vertebrae? Each vertebrae has two ribs coming out of it. So what happens if both of the ribs of a single vertebrae were removed? They were dislocated, taken out of their sockets. The chulya kayamas, the actual vertebrae is still there. Mao. Amaluhu gistakar misu. You're asking me the case where the animal is split, since it's missing two ribs, one opposite each other. So there's nothing essentially holding the two halves of the animal together. That spot, there's a gap, and therefore the animal is almost split in two from the front to the back. Frek the Gemara, v'harav nami gister ka'amar. He said that if you have a tsela, a rib, that was nekar together with the vertebrae, it's split in two. So, it means Rav's question was, Rav was asking to them, the Rav Asi and Rav Kahana, you're asking me if this is a treifa. He's saying it's a gistera. A gistera is not just a treifa. A gistera, we said before, if an animal is split in two, even if it's still moving, it's considered an avela. If you then shecht it after it became a gistera, it's too late. It's more than a treifa that's ultimately going to die. It's treated as if it already died. So you're asking me about a case that's actually an avela. In fact, Rav, your case that you gave, that you said it didn't. Nekar tzela v'chol a treifa. Why is that only a treifa? It should be a nevela. It should have the din that it's metama. Dr. Gemara, Amarav tzela beloy chulya. When Rav said that nekar tzela v'chulya, it doesn't mean that tzela together with the vertebrae. It means that tzela without the vertebrae. It means the rib without the vertebrae was removed. That's not what he said. What Rav was talking about was not where the entire vertebrae was missing. It was part of the vertebrae was missing. So then the animal is not split in half. It's just missing a single rib together with part of the vertebrae. But it's not split. Therefore, it's not necessarily an avela. If that's the case, if Rav Kahana Ravasi l'chayra, they're asking a question, they're asking a further question to Rav. So they must be asking the case. Rav was talking about a case where part of the cholya was missing. They must be talking about where none of the cholya is missing. And they're saying where you have both ribs. but no cholia missing, is that going to be a din of a treifa? You said that if it's missing part of the one rib with part of the vertebrae, so they asked him two without any of it. V'amalu gista can't be so, but how could he answer then that this is a gistera, that it's a nevela, but it's not missing the vertebrae at all? Why should it be a gistera? V'amar ula ben zaki amar nekabroiv tzadechad shtaver broiv shnitzadim, that that's going to be a treifa, not a nevela, not a gistera. Amalach hasam zeh shloy keneged zeh hachad zeh keneged zeh. They say no. Rav said it should be a gister over here because we're talking about two ribs that are one opposite each other. But the case of Ula that said b'shem Zakai, we said nekru b'roiv tzad or nekru b'roiv tzad meaning where six of the ribs are nekar. It has to be roiv of tzad only six. That's not talking about where the two ribs are opposite one another. But Einachanami, Rav is telling Rav Asi and Rav Kahana that if you have two ribs opposite each other, which is nekar, where the chulya is still intact, where the vertebrae are still the vertebrae in between them is still intact. Even so, since they're opposite one another, you have nothing holding the front and the back of the animal together except for the spine. That will be a gister. That will be an avela. Practical Gemara of Amar Rabbi Yechon B'roiv Shnei Tzadim B'roiv Shnei Tzadim Yefshid Lo Kain Chaminayu Zeh Keneged Zeh. Practical Gemara, but what about Rabbi Yechon who was chaylik on Olu B'Shem Ben Zakkai, and he said even by nekar you need to have 12 ribs that were nekar. Since there's only 11 ribs on each side. If you have to have a minimum of 12 that's nekar for it to be a treifer, you're always going to have at least one of the ribs is opposite another rib that was removed. And according to Rav, then how could he say it's a treifa? According to Rav, he says it's a gistera when you have two opposite ribs missing. So that should also be, how could Rabbi Yechon say it's a treifa? It should be a nevela, a gistera. The Gemara, Hasam Buchna Beloy Asisa. Over there, it's talking about where where Rabbi Yochanan said that it's going to be B'roiv Shnei Tzadim. You're talking about where the rib came out, the tzela came out, but the socket that it comes from was not damaged. Hacha buchna v'asisa. But when Rav Kahana and Rav Asi asked, it's not like we had just suggested that Rav Kahana and Rav Asi are asking about a case where the vertebrae is intact. They're asking about a case where the vertebrae itself is damaged. Even
though in the case itself it says straight out the choyu kayemes.
The what?
In the case where they asked it, the case was nekra tzela mikan v'tzela mikan v'choyu kayemes.
Right.
So now we're changing that.
Well, we had thought choyu. Well, we're going to see choyu kayemes doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it's. We're not talking about where the entire vertebrae is destroyed. We're talking about the half and half case. Before we were trying to be medayik, and the fact that Rav talked about a case where it's partially damaged, so we assumed that they must be talking about where it's not damaged at all. Now we're going to change that and say it's talking about where it's partially damaged, but it's not, it's still existing. So the Gemara says, but what about our diak before that? We medayik, and the fact that Rav is talking about where the cholia, the vertebrae, are still around, they're just partially damaged. It's talking about tzela v'chatzi cholia. So then, hainu de Rav. They're asking about the same case. Rav had said that if it's missing part of the cholia together with one rib, that it's going to be a treifa. So then they pop up and they ask him, what happens if you have a cholia, a part of a cholia together with two ribs? Obviously, it's going to be treif. It's not better because it's missing two ribs. So, and for Gemara, l'shmilahu derav. Rav Asi Rav Kahana, we put their question together with Rav, but it wasn't really that they were asking the question on Rav's memra. They asked Rav this question, without having been aware of what Rav had said before. If they never heard of Rav, why are they saying the further question of whether there were two ribs? Let them ask one rib. So tomorrow, Sabri liboy mine chada de parish lantarti. We're going to ask him a question of two ribs, because that will answer two questions. The ibn mine chada, if we ask him about one rib, hanichi amalan treifa, kol shchein tarti. They didn't know what Rav held about a single rib that was missing together with part of the chulin. They said, if we would ask him about one rib, and he tells us that it's a treifas, and we'll know obviously that two is also treif. Yamalan kshera, but if he tells us it's kosher, chati kami boilan. Maybe if it's two ribs opposite each other, there will be a treifas, so we won't answer. So therefore, we asked him two. Then if he tells us that two is a kshera, then we'll know for sure that one is also kosher. Zakmara. Yihachi hashnami de kabo amine tati anichi yamal kshera kosher and chada. Yamalu treva kati chada mibayalu. But yeah, it doesn't really help anything. How are they going to know if he tells them two is a treva? Maybe a single rib would be kosher. The Gemara, no. Sorry. In mitach karosach. If they would have asked him if they ask him about two, and he says, two is going to be a treifa, they'll see that and really one is also a treifa, they'll see that he's angry at them. He'll answer with anger if they ask him about two. If they asked a question that was off, not just by one, but by two, then he's going to be angry at them for asking the question. So Imkain, he'll be angry. Chada treifa tatimi baya. If one is a treifa, why are you asking me about two? Correct the Gemara, but that's exactly what happened. They asked him. It turns out he had said that a single one is a treifa, and they asked him about two, and he didn't seem to get angry. But ka'armi levelay rasach. They asked him, and he answered. So the Gemara, no. From the fact that he didn't say just that it's a treifa, but rather he said not only is it a treifa, it's an avela, it's a gistera. That is a siman that he was angry at them. Otherwise, he could have just said it's an avela. So it's a little hard to understand because it's coming out that if it's only one rib with part of the chulya, it's a treifa. If it's two ribs with the chulya, with a part of the chulya, it's an avela. So how is he angry by saying it's a gistra? It seems it's necessary information he's imparting to them. I guess he could have said it more calmly.
Meaning, the only time it's a gister is when there are two, but if it was one, then it's not a gister? No.
No, Rav had said with one that it's a treifa. He didn't say it's a
treifa, right. The two would be a gister.
So it's only in that case. So it's a little hard to see how he's angry at them, and it's also hard to see how they could be medayik anything. If he says that one is a treifa, yeah, basically the question is, why would he necessarily be angry at them for asking a case that is an avail? They're not asking about the same thing that he had already taught. Amar Rabba Barav Shila, Amar Rav Masna, Amar Shmuel. We say b'shem Shmuel, and it's a machlokes rishonim whether Shmuel is being chaylik, all we said before, or just being mefarish. Nekrat Sela Meikara. If a rib was uprooted from its source, from the spine, and a skull of an animal that was crushed in roiv of it, basar achayp as roiv akarem beruboy, and the flesh that's covering most of the stomach or the belly of the animal. If roiv of that, something happened that the Gemara is going to ask if it means that it was if it got torn or if it got a hole in it or if it's missing. It's gonna all these things are going to be a treif. So the Gemara first goes through them one by one. Nekra tzela mikara treif. We said if a tzela is missing, it's a treif. Ramini was going to ask a kasha on Shmuel from himself. Kam chisarim b'shedra. How much is a shedra that's missing one of its pieces that it's going to no longer be considered a sedra legabe tuma? We've come across a number of times the din that in order for a animal skeleton to be metama tumas oil, to be metama with touching with much less. To be metama tumas oil, you need the complete shedra or roiv of its bones, roiv of its entire skeleton. But what can you be missing from the spine that it still is considered to be a complete spine? Just like, it has a flaw in it. Basil says if it's missing even one cholya, it's no longer matama ba'il. The Shammai says you need to have two. And Rabbi Yehuda says b'shem Shmuel. So again, this is Shmuel who had just told us that if you're missing one tsela from a vertebrae, from one rib that's taken off of the spine, it's going to be matama. It's going to be a treifa. He says v'chein l'treifa. This din that we just said legabi tuma, that what makes it a treifa, what makes it tameh, what's considered to be that the spine is considered missing. Beis Shammai says you need two, and Beis Hillel says you need one. That's also going to be true legabi a treifa. So L'chayru was seeing Shmuel had said one rib is considered to be a treifa, and over here was saying it's a machlekes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Now, right, so when you have the two cholyas, obviously you can't have a cholya, seemingly you can't have a cholya without the ribs. So you see that you have to, he's saying that this is the din. In order for it to become a treifa, you have to have, according to Beis Shammai, two cholyas with not just the ribs, but two cholyas, two vertebrae, which means really four ribs together with it in order to be a treifa. And Shmuel had said all you need is a single rib that came out to be a treifa. And the Gemara, no. Hasam cholya b'loy tzela. I'm sorry, skip. Hacha tzela b'loy cholya. Over here, meaning that din of Shmuel, it's talking about where the tzela came out without a cholya, so a single tzela coming out makes it a treifa. Hasam, the gabi tuma, that we said that it has the same din of that for it to become a treifa, it's talking about where the cholya is gone without the tzela, and that's where that's talking about where it doesn't include the rib. The rib is still there. What are you talking about? Tzela, cholya b'lei tzela. Bishlam tzela b'lei cholya mishkachas. We could have such a thing that the tzela is missing, but the cholya is intact. That Shmuel says it becomes a treifa. How could you have a case that was saying it's telling you a different din that if you're missing the cholya but the tzela is still there? What does that mean? If the cholya is gone, then the tzela is just hanging in nowhere. It's not doing anything. So Gemara, b'shili kafli. There are the spine continues past the ribs, and there are parts of the spine that just have a little bit of bone sticking out of them, but it's not a rib. So in that place, if the cholya is missing, they're coming to tell you that will be legabi. First of all, there's a machlekes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel legabi tuma. How much has to be missing, and also if that's missing, that cholya, even though there's no ribs coming out with it, it's also going to make the animal into a treifa. Maskef Maskef lo Rav Oishia. V'lisnaya gabi kula beishami v'chum beisila. If we're saying that it has the same din legabi treifa, that Beishame is saying you need to take two in order for it to be a treifa. Beisila says you only need one. This is a kula of Beishame. Beishame is saying it's harder to become a treifa, which is a kula. Amalei Rav ki itchel inyan tuma itchel. Tahavalu Beishame l'chumra. When Rav said the dinim of what are the chumra Beishame, this question came up. This machlekes Beisham Beisil was legabe tuma, even though it has repercussions as far as treifa. The ikar shaila is legabe tuma. So therefore, it really is a chumrah of Beisham. In tuma, it has to be missing more in order to save it from being metama. So that is a chumrah, not a kula, even though it comes out also a kula legabe treifa. The Mishnah continues. I'm sorry, not the Mishnah. The member of Shmuel continues. Right? Shmuel had said first that it's missing a single rib. Then he said that it's Shmuel had said that it's going to be a treifa. When we talk about the roiv of the skull, does that mean the height of the skull from the top to the bottom? Or does it mean roiv of its circumference going around on the horizontally? When it says teku, it's not clear. Shmuel had also said that the basar that covers over most of the belly of the animal, if it's a roiv of that, something happened to it, it's going to be a treif. Why Rav Ashi? When we say that rubai is damaged, does it mean that roiv of it is torn or that roiv of it is missing? So it's not. We can learn it, we can answer it from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah had said, Karen hapnimis shenikva, shenikra roiv achitzayna. You remember we had many pshatim in the Gemara about this, which our Gemara is now going to bring up again. But we said the karen, which is essentially the belly of the animal, hapnimis, the inner part, if it's nikva, then it's going to be a treifa. Or if it's nikra and roiv of the chitzayna, the outside part. In the explanation of what was in identifying what's the kerem hapnimis and the kerem hachitzayna. Kol hakerem kulei zui kerem hapnimi. The kerem itself, the belly itself, that's the kerem hapnimi. Beizeu kerem hachitzayna basar hachayev es roiv hakerem. Talking about the basar that's on top of that belly. So we're asking that we're saying that so the reference in our Mishnah of what is treifa, when we say that the keres, the nikra roiv hachitzayna, that's talking about the basar on top of the keres. So that's the exact same thing that Rav Ashi was asking. By Rav Ashi, roiv karua basar achayv roiv hakeres is according to us. That's what the keres hachitzayna is, and we said karua. So why are you asking if is it missing or karua? Our Mishnah, according to this man, the Amar, said that the basar that's covering roiv of the keres is going to be a treifa, just with karua, not with nothing. In fact, we're trying to answer. Shmuel was the man, the Amar, who said that if roiv of the keres, of roiv what's covering the keres, so the basar that's covering the keres was damaged, that it's going to, or something happened to it, that it's going to be a treifa. He doesn't say that pshat, that the keres hapnimi that we say karua is going to be a treifa. That's the reference of the keres hapnimi. Because we said, Rav Yaakov Nachmani Amar Shmuel, Malkum she'ein by milas. He had said it's talking about a whole different thing. Our Mishnah, when it said the keres hapnimi, is talking about the parts of the keres that don't have the hair-like coverings that has to be taken off before it's eaten. there's nothing to do with the basar that's chayfer roiv of the keres. So he could say that, therefore, that's why he had a legitimate question on the member of Shmuel over here. Is it talking about karua or not? The Mishnah continued to um, the next treifa, which was drusus hazev. If a zev clawed an animal, just remind ourselves of what the Mishnah had said about this. It's surprisingly a pretty complicated topic. The Mishnah said, drusas hazev, if a wolf clawed an animal, that's going to make it into a treifa. Yehuda Aimer, drusas hazev bedaka, or drusas ari begasa. The drusa of a wolf on a small animal, and the drusa, the clawing of a lion on a large animal. So it's not clear. That means our Mishnah, Rashi had said that this is talking that Rabbi Yehuda, what did he say in the Mishnah? I'm sorry, Drusa Ariba Gasa, Chosh came Bedakma, Tanakama Sava, Olam Zira Dezel, and Klaya Nami Legasa. He says that Yehuda is being chaylik. He's saying that it's specifically only a lion for a large animal and a wolf for a small animal. But the Tanakama, Rashi said in the Mishnah, is saying that even a wolf is enough for a large animal. But our Gemara is going to be chaylik on. It's going to say Rabbi Yehuda is being mafarish and not being chaylik. Amar Yudamara, behema bin azev ulamayla, a ze'ev, anything the size of a wolf or bigger than a wolf, which could be a bear or a tiger, whatever it is, anything bigger than a wolf as well, when it claws, it's going to infect the animal, it's going to become a treif. And for birds, anything larger than a nates, which is a kind of bird of prey. What is it coming to exclude? If it's coming to exclude a cat, only a wolf kills with its claws, that it poisons or it infects the animal, but a cat will not make an animal in shreifa. We already said in our Mishnah there has to be the clawing of a wolf. So we know it has to be something at least the size of a wolf. Maybe it's coming to tell you the zev begasa nami does. It's coming to tell you, not to tell you that only a zev is able to claw, but anything smaller than it can't. But rather, it's going to tell you a zev can claw even something that's large, even a large animal, what do you call it, a cow. But Tanan, Rabbi Yehuda, Drusus Hazev B'Daka, Drusus Ari B'Gasa. Rabbi Yehuda already had said this, that the zev can kill a small animal, and a Drusus Ari, and a lion can kill a large animal. And the Gemara at this point is understanding not like Rashi had said in the Mishnah, that Rabbi Yehuda is being chaylik, but rather Yehuda is explaining the Tanakama. So therefore, the Tanakama, Yehuda already explained about the Tanakama, that the reason we said a zev, to tell you that a zev can only do a small animal, but not a large animal. So therefore, the only thing that's left for zev to be saying is that it doesn't, but a chsul can't, that a cat can't kill with its clawing. So why do you have to say that? What's the point of Rav, a behem and a zev, l'mayla? And if you'll say, like Rashi had said in the Mishnah, that Taka Rabbi Yehuda is coming to be chaylik on the Tanakama, and therefore we have to say a zev and not a chasol. They already said that Rabbi Yehuda is only coming to be mefarish. He's not coming to be chaylik. In fact, the Gemara Gavra Karamis. So you're asking on Rabbi Yehuda Amarav because of this memra of Rabbi Yam Bar Yafas. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda Amarav doesn't agree with Rabbi Yam Bar Yafas, and therefore he felt it necessary. He says Yehuda is being chaylik on the Rabban, and therefore he felt it necessary that Yehuda didn't say Daka, so therefore he felt it. It has to say now that that's all he had to say.
So what
Um,
is Rav coming to tell you? That it's only a drusus, a zev can only kill a small animal,
um,
or not? Or is he coming to be? He's coming to be a cat.
he's coming. He's coming to say that. Yeah, he's coming to say that a cat cannot cannot make even a small animal a treifa.
Because a wolf can make a small animal treifa and not a big animal.
Because the problem was the Mishnah had already said, right? He had said that Rav says a animal that's a zev or bigger it makes a treifa. So we're saying, what is
Right.
that coming to exclude? Is it coming to exclude a smaller animal? Our Mishnah said Drusus Hazev. So what is Rav coming to reiterate what our Mishnah had said? Now, if we're saying that Ra I'm sorry, the Tanakam of our Mishnah that said Drusus Hazev holds the same thing as as Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah. That maybe when it says a zev, it doesn't mean to say just a zev can kill, but a cat can't. What it's coming to tell you is that only a cat, only a zev can only kill. Um, Maybe it's coming to
Small
tell you
animal.
not like Rabbi Yehuda, but the zev can kill even a cow. So we're saying, but we have a madam who says that he doesn't argue on that point. He agrees. So therefore, the only thing he could be telling with Zev is that only a Zev kills, but not a Chasol. A Chasol can't kill anything. So he said, no, maybe Rav doesn't agree with this Madam. He says that Tanakama is being chaylik, so therefore we have to say that it's coming to tell you that only a wolf is right. So he's saying that a zev can kill even larger animals, but it possibly could be one might have thought that a cat um, could kill other animals. It could kill maybe it could kill the same thing as a zev. We don't know. But so that's why, according to Rav, he's telling us no, that only anything smaller than a zev is not able to kill anything, because he doesn't hold like the Mandamu says he's saying the same thing. Ibai saying "Eloilum mutichsul," or you could say um, that no, the Tanakama when he says zev is coming to be memayit a chasol, that a chasol is not able to kill by clawing; it doesn't make it a treifa. But I might say that we just said the case of I wouldn't know that if the soul is excluded because maybe it's he's just saying the normal case. The zev is the animal that normally is a predator. Kamash Malon, that's what he's coming to tell you. No, it is coming to specifically to exclude it. Okay, we're going to have to stop over here. We're going to continue for quite a while talking about animals clawing each other. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a good
Hashem.
day.